What's up, All Resource Nation? I'm excited because it's not often that we have a first-time guest. I mean, we've been on for close to 20 years, and we've had a lot of amazing guests over the years, but this is a first time for Michelle, so I'm really excited. I actually just met her, I don't know, a couple months ago. She was talking with her team, totally vibed right away. I loved what she was saying. Reached out to her and said, hey, could we have you on the show? Graciously, she said yes. You may not know her, so first go follow her on IG, and we'll throw that up now. But it's Michelle Berman-Mikel, Berman Media PD, just general badass. I mean, I love what you talked about with our team, and I want to start there. I want to get right into it, and then we'll get to a couple other things, guys, that you're gonna find really, really interesting and executable. Like, these aren't just ideas up in the clouds. These are like, hey, go home, execute them. If you're a realtor, if you're a lender, I'm gonna start with the thing that I connected with first, and can you unpack what this meant to you, which was the black line approach?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that's super near and dear to my heart. And so for all the athletes in the house, this might be something that is going to resonate really well with you. But I actually swam competitively for 22 years and specialized in the mile. So for those of you guys who know swimming, you know that that is the longest possible race you can swim in a competition. And it actually just became a Olympic event for females not long ago, I believe 8 years ago. So 2 Olympics ago. So when I was actually training, it wasn't even in the Olympics, but it was a college race that I swam. Short course yards, it is 66 laps. Long course, which is the Olympic size pool, it is 30 laps. So it is the longest race that you can train for. For me, for 22 years, that black line on the bottom of the pool really was more than just a marker for me. It truly became my companion. And that sounds kind of silly, but every lap I knew that it was always going to be there, and it was always something I could count on. So the black line for me served as a focal point. And really, if you guys think of like a visual metronome of something you can follow, that kept me focused. It kept each stroke and turn calibrated so that I could get into a rhythm of what I was doing. Really gave me a very clear, direct path and very purposeful lane, if you will, so that I could ultimately accomplish my goal, which was to complete the 66 laps or the 30 laps of the mile race. So just like anything, when you enter a race, having a strategy is super pivotal. So much like planning content and doing engagement on Instagram, it's really all about understanding when to send messages, when to not, how to conserve energy if you're in the middle of planning for this race, when to push on the gas pedal, and really just being able to listen to the feedback of your audience and adapting as necessary. And as a swimmer swimming the race, right, you have to learn how to adapt to what your body is telling you as you're in the middle of it. So for me, every lap in the pool really mirrored the consistent, persistent effort that I knew I needed to create and maintain to thrive on Instagram, which is my platform of choice. But it really helped me stay super aligned with my goals. It helped me measure progress. And really, ultimately, I knew that if I just followed that black line on the bottom of a pool, I would get to the other side. I would flip turn and I would turn around and keep going until I completed all 66 laps. So it gave me the confidence to say, as long as I follow the plan, as long as I keep going in the direction that I'm supposed to be going in, and I get to the other side where the T tells me to do a flip turn on the bottom line or on the bottom of a pool, then I'm good, right? Like, I know I'm going to finish. And so the black line approach concept is really all about how do we create a black line approach to what we're doing for social media or what we're doing with Instagram, and how does that create an opportunity for prospecting, right? Like, what does that mean? And so when I developed the concept of the black line approach, it really was, do we have a lane? Do we have structure? Do we have something that we can follow? Kind of a checklist, if you will, of if I do this and I do that, I will accomplish Y.
Yeah, and I think that's why it resonated with me so much, because, and this is your first challenge from this conversation, realtors, lenders, leaders, CEOs. What is your black line approach? And the reason I ask that is because I know I've been in this business at a high level for a very long time, and I've masterminded with some of the best top producers east to west coast, some of the best owners and CEOs, and there isn't an approach, let alone a black line approach. And everybody's had a really difficult 2 years. I mean, we're 2 years into adversity, and even then you would think that having an everyday, every lap approach that's the same, like you said, it helps me know exactly where I'm going, when I need to turn, stay on course. I would imagine if you didn't have that, you might drift.
Yep.
And we're 2 years into adversity, and we still don't have black line approaches at running our businesses. Now, you talked about it in the context of like a black line approach for social media, which I love. I'm saying, guys, you should wake up every day and have a black line approach to know exactly what you're going to do for those 8 hours. Guys, you run a business. You're running a business, whether you're a realtor or lender. And when I say, what's your business plan, and you don't have one, you wouldn't do that in any other business in America. You wouldn't go start, selling jeans or shoes or cars and not have a business plan. But for some reason in our space, and I'm getting up in your grill a little bit because I love you guys, but it's accepted to not have a black line approach or a business plan. So that's the first check to go, you know what, Hills and Michelle are right. I don't think I have a black line approach. Cool. Don't stop there, at least to be able to admit it, but then go and develop a black line approach that every single day, every single lap, you're going to do the exact same thing. And it's probably going to be more offensive related because right now people aren't finding a lot of listings, or closings. And so it's going to be a little bit more offense related this year. And in times in like 2020, it was more like back, we had a ton of loans. And so it was more about how do I get the loans through? So I love the black line approach. Honestly, we could nerd around on that for like an hour or so because I just think it's a huge need.
You'll just have to wait for the book, Ryan. That's all.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and guys, you could actually connect with Michelle and her company, and it's not just a conversation. Like if you're finding a lot of value in this, and you'll see there's a couple other topics we'll talk about, you can actually connect with them and mastermind and coach with them. So it's not just like the conversation doesn't stop here. You can connect with them, and again, we'll put that connection down below.
Ryan, if I can piggyback off of you, because I just had a moment, like a thoughtful moment that I don't want to lose, which is I think the black line approach ties into our daily activities, but also I really think it ties into our business model as a whole. So you mentioned business planning, and I think that that's so important, right? Everybody typically creates one at the start of the year. They're like, I'm having my business planning meeting for the new year. But I also want to like pull the curtain back and say, like, what's your value ladder? Right. And how does that change over time as the seasons change? Right. So like I know, and Ryan, for yourself or for your business and for what you're doing, like I know that if I do this one thing all the time, that creates this opportunity. If I do this all the time, that creates this opportunity. Right. And so like my value ladder is so dialed in. I know exactly what I have to do every single month in order to create the next result that I want, which then in turn creates the next result that I want. And ultimately leads me to stages and in the process right now of starting to write a book because Coach Bill gave me 90 days. So every day I wake up and I know exactly what I have to do to create the result that I want. And it keeps me laser focused. And I think what happens in the mortgage and the real estate space, and myself included over the years, is we get this idea, oh, I want to do this fun new thing because it'll like change it up. Right. But the reality is that the best entrepreneurs or the best business owners in the world do one thing really, really freaking well over a very long period of time. And I think that that's where, for me, the black line approach comes into play with not just what I do every day in my day-to-day, but actually why I do the specific things that I do in that everyday moment.
Yeah, I think the one thing, there's a lot of value on this already, but the one thing, and you're right, great leaders, top performers figure out, and that's a tough process to figure out what's your great one thing. What's the saying? You would probably know better. Master of none. How's that go? Somebody help me out.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody who knows? Somebody Google it.
Yeah, Eric. I know Eric's looking behind me. Yeah, but yeah, you're trying to do all things and you're average, huh? Jack of all trades, master of none. Thanks, Eric.
There we go.
But and Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this too. Like, find that one thing and just pour gas on it. Just pour gas on it. Josh Metal, we're both, Renee Rodriguez, Amplify, alumni, and Metal, Mega Metal was in my group, Josh Metal, and he found his one thing, doctor loans, years ago, and just poured gas on it. There's so many examples, guys, of finding the one thing. And the one thing oftentimes is things that you love. It's not like a grind of a job. It's like, I'm really passionate about helping doctors. So this doesn't feel like a job to me. And then you go find a ton of success. So I'll encourage you and double down what you said. Like, find that one thing, go pour gas on it, thank her later and go, hey, looking back a year later, I love my job now because I found my one thing and I'm doing it every single day. One of the things you talked about in the green room was kind of cool. And I'm intrigued because we haven't talked about this offline. So I get to hear it live with you guys, but how to have a presence on, I'm guessing, on social media, how to have a presence, but without being present. What does that mean? And how do you even do that?
Well, yeah, you might be thinking, like, is that even possible to have an impact on social media without having to show up every single day, constantly posting, whether it's on your feed or in your stories, and does having a strong presence mean that I have to live on it, right? Like, and I think that that's what the perception of really everyone is as far as how social media is designed to work. But in my opinion, the challenge really lies in the balancing act of the authentic side of us, and the strategic business content that we post. And if we do a good job at having both of those things, we can wake up every morning to a multitude of messages of conversations that are coming in, and people being able to confidently reach out to us without us having to reach out to them, which ultimately is what we all want, right? We all want to just wake up to an inbox full of messages of people saying, can we hire you? Like, duh, everybody wants that. But the
Right.
reality is, how do we do that? So having a presence without being physically present ties into one of the other things that I think we were going to start talking about, which is the phases of social content, or the phases of social prospecting. And I call
Right.
it Instagram prospecting specifically, but phase one is content, right? So what are you posting? What does it sound like? And then ultimately, what does it look like? So phase one is how you are able to eventually have a presence without having to physically be present every single day. So in phase one, we have to have a solid understanding of what are we posting? What does it sound like? And then ultimately, what does it look like, right? So that's the aesthetic aspect. And if we do a good job there, then when we couple that with phase two, which is prospecting. So prospecting is your outbound effort, right? Not your passive prospecting. Phase one is also passive in that sense, right? Because we're just posting or producing, and waiting for someone to reach out to us, or waiting for someone to contact us directly, as opposed to the alternative. So in phase two, I love that you said like pouring gas on it, because that's what I say. I say, if phase one is a well-oiled machine and you're producing really well there, and then you start figuring out how to do phase two, which is outbound prospecting, it's like pouring gas on an already existing fire, right? Because your content is valuable, your content is authentic, your content is personal. And in doing those things, you now are talking to people and outbound creating new conversations with people that you don't already know. So now people are coming back to your content, and your content that is hopefully evergreen, right? If you do it correctly, it's going to live there forever. It's going to produce the presence, or build your personal quote unquote brand. I hate that phrase, but it's going to build your personal brand without you having to do anything, right? So I wake up and I'll have messages on YouTube, or I'll have DMs in my inbox, or I'll just wake up and look at my email and have 4 or 5 people that have scheduled a call. And did I have to go outbound prospect them? Nope. Right? All I had to do was produce content in phase one. And then in phase two, do a handful of outbound prospecting, which for me is getting on podcasts, doing webinars, things of that nature, right? Which then create the inbound, where my presence allows for me to not have to physically be in my Instagram all day, every day. So does that make sense, Ryan?
Yeah, I want to unpack something a little further, though. Devil's in the details. You skipped right over it. You and I have talked about it in our short relationship already, and you made some really good points when we spoke about it. But I think it's one of the biggest gaps, and also opportunities for realtors and lenders, is have a strategy behind the content. You know, we were kind of the OG video marketing guys, so we traveled the nation talking about how to do video marketing, blah, blah, blah. But one of the biggest things we say, like, you're not creating a video just to create a video. There's a so that. And for you, your so that is like, so that you start a conversation. And a lot of your social media posts are exactly that. It's not just post and pray and hope and pray. I'm posting this and I'm crafting a message. This is very smart, 201, 301 video marketing, so that somebody wants to reach out to me and connect and DM with me. Can you unpack that a little bit further? Because I think that's a huge gap in the industry right now.
Absolutely. So how many mortgage or real estate talking heads do we both know? Right? Meaning they get on camera and they're posting the same thing that every other realtor or every other loan officer is talking about. Conforming loan limits went up. Here's a market update.
Right.
Like, here's the top 5 listings in my area. Like, boring. I'm sorry, but it's boring. Right? So the way that I teach this is people have said the 3 C's in various forms, but these are my version of the 3 C's. And I hope that this resonates and I hope that it lands, which is, first and foremost, your content is designed to connect. So if I can connect on a personal level, and I have a story here, but if I can connect with someone personally, or create a feeling where someone feels heard or feels seen in the content that I'm producing, then they are more likely and more confident in reaching out and having a conversation with me. So they're more likely to want to, and they're more confident in doing so, right? Like, I've gotten so many messages from people who have said, Michelle, like you're a lot, like you're a really big high D personality, like you seem very intimidating, but like I watched that video and I just realized like we're the same. And I'm like, we are the same. I just have a lot of energy. And I just am a bulldog, right? Like that's just who I am. My husband loves that so much. But haha. But the reality is that I focus so much on connection first, because if I connect with someone and I make the other person on the other side of that screen feel very seen and very heard, then they are more likely to conversate with me, right? Meaning they're more likely to send me the message. They're more likely to want to jump on my calendar and have a call. But in doing so, I know that I cannot create conversion if I'm not having a crap ton of conversations, right? Connection happens first, conversations happen second, conversations come out of the connection, and then my conversion happens because I'm really good at talking to people and I'm just myself, right? If you ever meet me in real life, Ryan, which I hope we get to sooner versus later, I am 5'3" and that's it. Like, but I am exactly who I am right now in
you
real
come
life.
off way taller on camera. I thought you were like 6 foot, to be honest with you.
That's what
funny.
everybody says to me. They're like, holy
Maybe it's
moly,
just the
you're
good
so
posture.
small.
I don't know.
Literally every person that I haven't met in real life, when they do meet me, they say the same thing. They're like, wow, we really imagined you a lot taller. But when we're talking about connection, right, one of the things that I'm super passionate about is outbound prospecting on Instagram. That's my love language. That is like my superpower. But how do you make someone care, right? How do you make someone want to even have that conversation? And great example is when I got back from Mastermind a few weeks ago, Renee gave us a 90-day challenge. The 90-day challenge was related to going live on Instagram for 90 days straight, right? I'm not going to go live on the weekends. I'm not on my phone on the weekends, but I'm going live Monday through Friday like clockwork. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, actually, I was like, what am I going to go live about today? And in the moment, I realized, holy moly, I had a mom morning, and I just got to share this with the world because there's going to be so many people that can resonate. And the story is, I walked in on my son, who he wakes up at 6:30 on the dot every morning like clockwork. We are hardcore sleep trainers in my world. And it's been a godsend for us. But he's almost 3. And I walked in on him and he had the huge smile on his face. He was very happy. And there was poop, Ryan, literally everywhere. Like he had taken his diaper off. He had chucked it across the bedroom. There was a giant pile of poop next to the side of the crib.
Oh my God.
The crib, all over the sheets. And I just looked at him and I love being a mom. Like truly it is the most amazing thing for me. But I walked in and I was like, I can't even be mad at this kid because I'm dumbfounded as to what I just walked in on. Never once in his entire life has he ever done this. But right there in the moment that was happening, when I knew I had to go live that day, I immediately said to myself, that's it. Why? Because how many other parents have walked in on this with their kids? Now, did I talk about Instagram prospecting, and did I talk about why I'm going live on Instagram, and did I allude to some other things that I have coming up and some events that I want people to come be a part of? Yeah, for sure. Right. But I connected first and I said, hey, where are all my boy moms at? Because holy frick. Yeah. Right. My husband even was like, sorry, babe, I'm really happy that you're the one that had to deal with that though. And I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I would have been too.
But the reality, right, is like how many of us get on Instagram or get on Facebook and we talk about mortgages or we talk about real estate and it's the same thing every single day. How many of us get on Instagram and say, hey, I walked in on my son literally covered in poop, top to bottom. And like I have white carpet, Ryan. Like just imagine
the
rest of my morning and what that looks like.
This visual's awful.
Right? But like how many people get on Instagram and start talking about that and then talk about who they actually or what they're actually trying to do for a living, right? Because one of the things that a mutual friend of ours, Neil Ford, I think Neil is just a phenomenal human being, but one of the things that he said to me that really resonated with me was people don't remember data the way that they remember stories, right? So could you tell the story of Little Pigs from when we were kids? Of course you could, right? Do you remember the exact date of when you had your first birthday party or your 5th birthday party, or what day of the week was your 12th birthday party? Like, no, people don't remember that stuff, right? But you'll remember, oh yeah, but I had a Cars themed birthday party because you remember the story behind it. So when I'm trying to get people into understanding what I do for a living, I have to connect with them first, and I have to make them feel, I know I've said this before, but I have to make them feel seen and I have to make them feel heard. And quite honestly, there's not enough of that in the mortgage and real estate space because everything is accolade, accolade, accolade. Look how awesome I am. But the reality is that's not why I'm going to hire you in the first place.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it originally when, God, this makes me old. I can remember like when YouTube and IG came out. Good Lord, dating myself. But the original goal I can remember was a value add, and it was educational. I remember the even Savage, a mutual friend of ours too, edutainment, right? And so I think people forget to evolve. Like, guys, we evolved from just an educational piece of content, but you can do that. So you mentioned loan limits increase. That was your example earlier. Neat, cool, no connection. But like, I think it's again back to the trap of the vanity metric trap of like, well, I just talked about, I shot a video, check, false win. That wasn't the goal. The goal is to shoot a video to connect, to your point. But how do you talk about loan limits? And I think it goes back to what you and Neil were talking about. Like, is there a story behind it? Because sure, you should add value and you should be educational, but it also should be geared to connect to your 3 C's so you can have a conversation that leads to a conversion. Guys, that's what we do. We don't sell shoes. We sell houses, sell loans. And at the end of the day, your video has to spit out that. I don't care. The likes don't pay the bills, right? So I love that you talked about the 3 C's. Doesn't mean you abandon the topic of loan limits increasing. It just means you have to tweak the story behind it. I love what you're saying there. Yeah. Just trying to make it practical so people can take away and start redoing.
Sorry, Ryan, think of a Venn diagram right there, because I don't want anybody listening to this to miss what Ryan just said, because it's the most important thing that I think we've said thus far, which is when you're producing content about the loan limits, where is the story? And what I want people to visualize is a Venn diagram. So on one side, you have passion, or your passions, things that you love and things that you enjoy doing. And on the other side is your expertise or your credibility. What makes you so good at what you do, right? Or what's your superpower in the mortgage and or real estate space? Now, what is the intersection of those two circles? That's your content, right? So good example. I just met with a loan officer very recently he's a big DIY project guy, loves building retaining walls, loves doing things outside, all kinds of stuff, right? Like his wife hates it, but he loves it. So he's constantly building things or creating projects. So I asked him, I said, hey, what was your most recent project that you just finished? He goes, well, actually, I just built a retaining wall, the kind with like the lights in it, with the walkway going out to the patio or the gazebo out back. I was like, great. Okay, what's your pain point now? So we have your passion over here of building a retaining wall. Now what's our pain point? And the pain point, one of the things that he specifically mentioned was that a lot of his first-time home buyers have a ton of questions around the way to calculate what they can actually afford in a monthly payment. Yeah. Like how to actually put their entire monthly payment together. And I was like, great, okay, let's go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, can you create an analogy between building a retaining wall and how someone can build like a graph or some kind of diagram to figure out what their monthly payment should look like for a mortgage, or what their monthly payment would be for them that they're comfortable with for building a mortgage. So what do? We combined those two things. We pulled an analogy out. Thank you, ChatGPT. And then we built a 5 sub-question series. So we have a title. What does a retaining wall and building your mortgage payment have to do with each other? Then we have 5 sub-questions underneath that topic. And each of those 5 sub-questions, the opening hook of the video has nothing to do with the mortgage payment. The opening hook has everything to do with the retaining wall and the step-by-step process of how my client went to Lowe's 77 times to go build a retaining wall, right? And how we then correlate that to how I, as a buyer, would look at my monthly mortgage payment of what am I willing or not willing to afford.
Yeah, I love that. And you actually touched on AI. We haven't touched on it a whole lot. Eric's smiling ear to ear behind the camera because he just loves ChatGPT, and he's pushed the old guy, which I use every day now. I'm so proud. I'm using it 10 to 15 times a day at least. But everybody's so afraid. We mock what we don't understand, right? And so AI is gonna replace our jobs. You just gave a great example of no, don't be afraid of it. Leverage it to like make you better, more efficient, tell a better story. And guys, that's a great example for realtors and lenders that are fearing, AI. Like, you don't have to. It doesn't have to replace you. You might have to leverage it more. You might have to leverage the technology more to help you, be more efficient or tell a better story. That's we weren't even going to talk about AI, but you stuck it in there, so I had to touch on it.
It's just a springboard, right? You're never taking it at face value. You're never taking the exact words and copy pasting them into a teleprompter app. Like, it's just a springboard to the creative juices that we need, or that kind of differentiating factor. Like the analogy between building a retaining wall and building a monthly mortgage payment. Could I have eventually come up with that in some capacity? in 20, 30 minutes of conversation? Yeah, probably. Right. I mean, I think I'm smart enough to be able to figure that out, but I think the reality is that it expedites the process. So it doesn't replace my client's expertise. It just expedites his ability to go from content idea to content creation to now the content is deployed and is out there for the world to actually be able to consume.
Yeah, I think it's a huge takeaway, guys. We have to change the way that we're creating content so that it starts a connection, so that we can have a conversation, so that we can convert. So good. I don't want to leave people just with 20 minutes of good content, which is awesome. Thank you so much. But if they like what you're laying down and they're picking up what you're laying down, let them know like if they want to continue the conversation with you, what does that look like? How do they connect with you? Obviously, we'll put your links below. But for somebody that's like, I think I like this girl, even though she's 5'3", have a ton of energy.
I'm 5'8", okay.
What's next steps for a person that wants to take next steps with you?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to DM me on Instagram. And, I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of speaking engagements, but I love being home most importantly. So I enjoy this type of time with people like you, Ryan, where I get to go on podcasts and my son's downstairs and I get to go give him a hug afterwards. Like that's my favorite way to do it. But I have a lot of webinars coming up that people can get dialed into. I have a lot of in-person speaking coming up, but as far as working with me directly, we do a lot of private coaching. And I have a big giant course called Beyond the Method, not to scare you, but it is a little over 100 videos, and that's on purpose, right? 100 videos.
Is that the sign behind you that got trademarked?
It sure is. Beyond the Method is officially official. Yep.
Today. Congratulations, by the way.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, it's 100 plus videos. It's 27 homework assignments. I kind of laughingly say it's like my thesis that I didn't have to go pay $40,000 for. But instead I get paid to do now, right? So the course itself goes hand in hand with the private coaching. So our clients will go through the private coaching and I'll assign them homework throughout the modules. If you're somebody that is not in a position to go through something like that and you need a different conversation, then just DM me and we can chat through what that would look like for you.
Positivity and energy in this industry is hard to find right now. So if you're an owner, because we have a lot of owners, which I love, and CEOs and regional leaders that watch. If you're looking for a speaker, she's a speaker and we've had her on and it's dynamite. She's a firecracker and brings a ton of value. So reach out to you guys if you're looking for a positive, energetic speaker to fire up your team and also not just fire them up, but give them tactics and strategies to go implement. I can co-sign for Michelle for sure. So I've got tons of notes from our little 20-minute conversation. Black line approach I love. Value ladder you snuck in, the 3 C's. I mean, we unpacked that quite a bit. The 90-day challenge. So if we wrap up, you touched on Renee's 90-day challenge. Are you giving everybody watching a 90-day challenge as well? And if so, what does that look like?
I can, and you'll love this. So if you guys are familiar with Renee, one of the things he says a lot is reframe or reframing, right? That's a big phrase in the Amplify world. And when I came home from Mastermind, we're doing a 90-day challenge with him from Mastermind, but I actually added one on myself for myself, and I'm going to launch it to my community next week, and we're going to help everybody come up with what their own 90-day challenge is. But mine is 90 days of no dessert. Now, do I need to lose weight? No. But the reality is that dessert is just for framing of this, but dessert for me is one of those things. I've had a long day. I've had a ton of meetings. I'm tired and I want to go have a bowl of ice cream, or I've got this big celebratory thing, right? Like we trademarked officially, like, let's go have ice cream, or let's go have cake, or let's go out to dinner and have something. Like dessert is just something that I really, really love. So I challenged myself because as a former athlete, and as a sort of competitive athlete still, one of my biggest issues is I don't take care of myself the way that I used to, right? So as a competitive athlete in college, I spent all my time in the training room, icing, saunas, red light therapy, eStim therapy, Normatec, like compression, cryo, like just all the things, right? Like when you're not in class, you're taking care of your body in order for your body to perform at the highest level. But the reality is as entrepreneurs, we typically don't do that, right? We grind, and we forget. And I'm constantly reminded of, hey, this hurts, or that hurts, or I'm sick again for the 17th time because I don't take care of myself. And so the 90-day challenge for me of no dessert really is a reframing opportunity for me to say, in this moment, I've had a really long day, so I want dessert. So what am I going to go do instead of that act, right? I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to take a hot bath, or we have a red light therapy like lay down thing. So am I going to go sit in that? We're in the process of getting a sauna built. So like, am I going to start doing those things, and am I going to reframe what I need to do in that moment to be able to continue to perform at the highest level that I do? Right. And most people, when they see me on camera, they're like, wow, she's so high energy all the time. But the reality is that I struggle too. Right. At the end of the days, I'm tired and I'm cranky, and I'm like, hey, I want to go feel good. And so the ice cream or the dessert is typically that feel good. So for me, that's where the 90-day challenge was born. And I messaged Renee and told him about it. And he was just like, well, damn, you just made your 90 days a little harder. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Yeah. So, but next week I'm going to launch a big kind of campaign for everybody to come up with what their 90-day challenge looks like. Not so much of like, I don't want it to be about diet. I don't want it to be about exercise. I don't want it to be about that. I want it to be about how do we take care of our bodies as entrepreneurs, and what that would look like for you, and what does that mean for you?
Well, another reason, guys, to go follow her on IG if you don't already. You're going to have to find out what that 90-day challenge looks like next week.
For sure.
Michelle, it's been awesome. Like, it's not often we get to have a new friend, a new connection on the show. You've killed it. You're a badass. I'm sure that you'll be back by high demand a second and a third time. So I appreciate you. Again, ball of energy, as you guys can tell. Go follow her. Thank you so much, Michelle. We'll see you guys next week.